Welcome to Dead to Cinema. I'm Brian Hillis.
And I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we missed, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
When it's time to fight crime,
Calling Dick Tracy. Calling Dick Tracy.
he's your man.
Tracy.
Tracy?
You mind if I call you Dick?
Okay, boys, let's go.
Tracy battles mom.
Come on, Tracy, take me with you.
You're under arrest.
I want more.
You got a name?
Kid.
Kid?
Kid.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Warren Beatty
Make a note, Pat. They waived their right to a phone call.
as Dick Tracy.
Aren't you gonna frisk me? Now that's what I call a dame.
I think Tracy drives you crazy, doesn't he?
When do we get Dick Tracy?
Everywhere I turn, it's Tracy! Tracy! Tracy!
This summer,
Tracy, watch out!
he's coming to a theater near you.
I'm on my way.
Dick Tracy.
We did Bulworth, what was that,
Back
20
in
weeks
May.
ago?
Now you kind of sort of picked a Disney movie.
Sorta. I mean, I knew I would have to watch this at some point. I'm sure we mentioned it on 2 Cents at some point. Maybe during that Bulworth episode I mentioned, oh yeah, I haven't seen Dick Tracy. I'd love to see that eventually.
This is one of those movies, though, that I remember it was on Encore all the time, or on,
All the
on
time,
HBO,
yeah.
one of them, but I just never sat down and watched
Same. I'd flip channels, I'd see Al Pacino in the makeup, and like, yeah, this doesn't look like my kind of thing. Let me just keep on flipping, and it definitely isn't. Don't get me wrong, this is a marvelous movie from just a filmmaking standpoint. The cinematography that Vittorio Storaro does here, the makeup with the prosthetics,
Yeah, I keep thinking like Sin City every time I think like, what's the
Yeah.
closest to this? But well, it's still completely different. But yeah, it's that same principle where every single frame of it is meant to feel like this other world, and that's probably the greatest strength of this, is that it does walk away with that impression. But I gotta say though, it's weird that it kind of doesn't maintain it, because it gives you those visual punches like within the first 10 minutes, and then it kind of just settles for some really standard but effective camera work where it's just like, okay, it sold you all the matte paintings and all that, and then I guess it kind of goes with it, but it stops. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, that it just stops trying to impress you just then and there, and then it becomes more standard, and it's just a standard cops and robbers movie after that.
I think it's just Warren Beatty put so much into this film to make it stand out from a visual, just not even visual, but from artistic standpoint.
Just
that-
world building after it is strong.
Yeah,
like
it's just the story is so boring and the characters aren't that great and it's not funny, and it like the best thing he got going for it's like Al Pacino's character, just because he's hard to forget. Like just the dialogue, his misquotes, the makeup, the fact that his name is Big Boy. Like he got an Oscar nomination for this.
You're kidding.
No, he did. Yeah, this film got a lot of nominations, believe it or
I
not.
mean,
It won 3. It won
for
for
technical, I
orig-
get it, but for performance,
Yeah, he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
not that I'm complaining, but I mean, is this really Oscar material?
This got nominated for like 11 awards. It got nominated. It won
Wow.
for art direction, for makeup, and Madonna won for an original song. And the music here is great. Danny Elfman, he composed the score. This is a year after Batman. Stephen Sondheim did the original music. They put out like 3 albums for just the music to this movie. Like there's the Madonna songs, there's the scoring, there's other stuff. There's 3 separate soundtracks, which is crazy. But yeah, Al Pacino was nominated. Vittorio Storaro was nominated, rightfully so. He didn't win somehow, even though he won like the ASC award. He won like everything else, everywhere else, except at the Academy Awards. They didn't give him the award. I don't know what won this year. I could check. It's 1990, so this is the year that Dances with Wolves won Best Picture, so maybe that's what won. But, we didn't really champion this DP when we talked about Bulworth, probably because there really isn't a visual style to
I don't
that
want to
film.
see standard, but it's just that
Yeah.
you walk away thinking about a lot of different things with that movie. Mainly rap.
And
That's the
the
biggest
way
impression.
the way it's shot isn't one of them, whereas this is. And if you've seen filmmaking by Italian filmmakers, even if it's not even in Italian. I mean, you got Bernardo Bertolucci. He did a lot of his stuff, most notably like The Last Emperor and Last Tango in Paris. He worked with Francis Ford Coppola on like Apocalypse Now and among other things. And then Warren Beatty worked with him on this Bulworth, as we mentioned, Reds, and I think something else. Not his latest. Don't Look Back. What's his new movie? Don't Look Now.
I forgot, but it tanked apparently.
Well, it wasn't.
So that's how memorable it is.
I want to see it.
I know
I'm
you do.
curious.
I assume that this is part of the reason why you're picking this, but
Yeah, a little bit. Because I was reading, it's like 3 weeks back now, the Entertainment Weekly, that there's like just this really great expose or like through the ages interview where they talked to Beatty, they talked to his wife Diane Keaton, they talked to a lot of the people that he collaborated with, a lot of them in this film. He's telling stories about how he got like the right takes from Madonna. Mandy Patinkin is like, oh yeah, he wanted me to be 88 Keys. I think Al Pacino even shares some stuff. And it's a really great interview. And I think when I was reading that, and just the fact that he has a movie coming out, and just how much we cover superhero stuff on our shows between 2 cents and Debt to Cinema, and especially dollar views and a few dollars more, that it's like, we talk about all the big ones, and yet we've avoided one of the more critically acclaimed filmmaker films. You got Warren Beatty, you got Al Pacino. I can't even list all the actors in here. It is literally an all-star cast. Everyone in front of and behind the camera is someone that even if it's just by the way they look.
Yeah, it is so packed.
And they have like no lines of dialogue too. It's crazy. They're wasted.
There's so many
like
people
James
here
Caan.
where I was just like, wait, where is James Caan? I can't tell who he is. William Forsythe is in this, and I still
he's
saw
flat
that.
top.
I remember what the character looked like, but I'm like, really? Is that him? That's early William Forsythe, or is it Forsythe? I don't know.
I think it's Forsythe.
Dustin Hoffman. It took me a
mumbles
while.
every
I'm not
line
gonna
of
lie.
dialogue,
It made sense after a while that you have Rain Man doing the same thing, but it took me a while to catch on to that one.
Just wasted here. Same, like everyone besides Al Pacino and Warren Beatty. It's like, I guess. Like I know you haven't seen Hook. But the kid here, the kid, is also the son in Hook. He's in a couple other things. It was just like around this time.
It's got to be
like
good.
The
I
late
mean,
80s.
I thought the kid was really good here, honestly.
Yeah, the kid's good.
Yeah, he's got
late,
like that sassy sort of, I want to say, New York style sort of street accent. Yeah, just a lot of attitude, which, yes, it's a two-dimensional casting for a kid character, but hey, he's really fun there. He has personality in this, and I really enjoyed just seeing the camaraderie between him and Dick Tracy.
He kind of retired from acting. He did a lot of stuff when he was a kid, and then he stopped to go to college, and then he did Can't Hardly Wait. Yeah, but he did Can't Hardly Wait, which is like one of my favorite late 90s teen movies, and that's his last filmmaking credit. And in that film, it's like, if you haven't, that's probably gonna be a Debt to Cinema if you haven't seen it.
No, I've seen it. Can't Hardly Wait.
Seen that one?
Yeah, I love that movie.
He's the nerdy guy that comes with the master plan to get back at the jock. But yeah, just so many people in this, and they're basically wasted. Like James Caan literally has maybe 2 minutes of screen time, and like 2 pieces of dialogue. You get this Godfather reunion for just a second, and then he's dead.
Okay, so wait, was he the guy that got put in the box?
No, James Caan, he wasn't wearing makeup. He's the guy that refused when they're like having their mob meeting right in the middle of the movie, and Al Pacino was like,
okay,
all of you guys are going to be working with me. I'm going to rule the city. And then James Caan goes, nah, I'm out. I've done this long, I'm out. And then his car blows up. Like that was it. I can't imagine how much money he had to cost just for that one scene.
No, I mean, like, as far as star power and recognizing them, yeah, it kind of fails at that, but I got sucked into this. Like, I think there's...
Really?
It really wasn't until I really started thinking about this movie that I thought there were potential problems with it. Like, it's like I said, with the visual style, and I was like, oh, well, that really, all the best shots I remember were the ones in the first 10 minutes, and then there's strange tonal inconsistencies where I think, wait, the box, like... This is a PG movie. Like, kids saw this. It had to be marketed to kids. You look at the style of it, and there's some pretty dark, like, horrifying shit like that. When that guy gets put in that concrete box and dropped in, like, yeah, that's pretty scary. Why does this seem so light? Like, Al Pacino, when you say Oscar nominated, it's like he's going all out like Al Pacino does normally, but it's almost like Scarface is kind of being the same, just as intimidating in a kid's movie. I mean... I don't know. It's totally weird because I mean, come on, the box. That's something that Tony Montana would do. That would be just as fucked up in that movie, and yet this gets a pass.
Oh yeah,
it is definitely
very
weird to think
dark
about
movie.
Yeah,
it's a dark movie. It's very provocative. Like any scene with Madonna, there you see her nipples like through her shirt. She has that line which is amazing, where Dick Tracy's like, "Don't you feel sad, breathless?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm wearing black underwear." I was like, "Oh, that's great. That's probably one of the better lines in the film." But yeah, this was definitely marketed to kids. I remember, maybe I still have them somewhere. I had Dick Tracy bedsheets for this movie. I have the tie-in video game for Nintendo Entertainment System.
It's funny. I can see why too, though, because even with the visual style of this movie, the closest thing that I can compare it to was Roger Rabbit. Like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's the first thing that came to my mind right when you get that very wide matte painting. And this is 2 years after, so it really does seem like it's just of that era.
Same kind of period going on the film. Very colorful. Disney.
Yeah.
But it feels like a comic book in like the best sense of the word. Like that was probably one of the strangest things about this film. How brightly lit and everyone is, wearing like colors that you just don't see on camera. It kind of reminded me of the Batman TV show from the 60s, except there is no camp here. Like it is pretty damn serious. Like you got this over the top makeup, but like I said earlier, they're not laughing.
You got campy elements there too, or like
sort of, but you're not.
Signature thing with the chili at his desk, which really all he does is just dip a spoon in and out. He never lifts that can. That might have been just planted
eats
there
chili
as a
like
prop.
the whole movie. Like I'm sure maybe like in the funny books, like Dick Tracy
gotta be
loves
a thing.
chili.
Yeah, but like
I don't know. I've never read the comics. They're like dead. The character's dead. I mean, Warren Beatty's trying to bring them back, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it just
anymore.
feels like a thing that is shoehorned in there because like, this is probably in the comic. It's the signature of the character. But when you're watching a movie, like it's one thing to cater to fans and be like, yeah, he loves chili, but like you're showing it to an audience in a theater, like make them at least understand why he loves it. It's like Popeye and spinach, like at least there's a why there, and it's like it's something that you can put together in 2 seconds, but we just get some shots of him dipping chili in there, and it looks important, but we never understand why, other than he just likes it.
Like I knew a couple things about Dick Tracy before I saw the film, and after watching I know the same things. I know he has a watch that he can talk to people on. I know he wears a yellow raincoat or like trench coat, and that he's like a badass detective. And I didn't learn anything new about him. Like it's so flat. Like you don't learn anything about this character. Where he starts is where he ends. Like there's no development. He is a very flat character. But talking about the chili, I love that composition of that shot and it happens probably like 4 times in this film, where one half of the frame on the left or the right is a close-up of some object, a face or the chili can with a spoon or something like that, and on the other side of the frame you have either like a cowboy shot or a establishing shot. You have some longer shot, and it's like
it's
almost
also in focus.
Yeah, they're both in focus. You have deep focus. It's like you don't see that, and it kind of made me think of a comic book in the same way how just not a splash page, but in the way that you're doing the panels. It'd be like, oh, here's this part, and then there's this thing, except they're happening at the same time here, and it was very dynamic. Maybe not the best
De Palma
thing.
does a lot in his movies too. That really, it's this awesome cinematic effect, but it definitely works here stylistically, especially just with the visual punches that you're seeing throughout.
It works, except it pulled me out of the moment. Like if anytime I'm watching a movie, if I go, oh, look at that shot, that's really cool. Like I had the same problem with Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I'm like, okay, well now I'm not watching the movie. Now I'm complimenting the filmmakers.
Okay, but you're comparing an indie drama that's supposed to be like very emotional and very intimate, whereas this is clearly stylistic from the get-go.
I'm just saying though, I can appreciate a lot of the filmmaking here. I love the camera work and the colors and the way everything looks, but it's kind of like you said, after like the first 10 minutes it became normalized and kind of didn't fall flat, but it wasn't as big of a deal.
It's more like it just wasn't as big. Like you don't get as many of those mats, and then it's just more like it never really abandons that world and like the unique look of it. It sticks with that. But it does stop trying to impress. It's just like, it's not a problem I had. It's just something that I noticed while watching it. It was like, well, this is no longer as visually appetizing as it was forcing it when it established it to me. Like, even one thing, even though Tracy is flat as a character, one thing I do love is that introduction to the theater. It's just like the way that it looks, where you have his shadows in the background, and then like you just show the play. It's like,
So I'll be right back.
You don't get some strange otherworldly shot like that anymore. It's just more of about the sets after that moment. But also just I love that introduction with him, about just how it sets him up as a character that's different from everything else. Is that he's like, I'll be right back. I want to see how it ends. He goes to see the crime scene, and then he does go back.
He's like, oh, I'm
it's like this is a guy that, he at least still cares and tries to find time for the little things, to the point where the only thing that's the issue with him, according to everybody else, is that they just want him to settle down. That's it.
Like right after that scene though in the opera, when you get the introduction of the kid and he goes to the train yard and he gets that shanty town, and just the fact where you're in the house and it's kind of cool, he's beating him up, whatever, and then you get a matte painting with this house like going flip flop like left and right, and then it falls apart, and how they were even able to do that like within this matte painting world. I was just like, ha, with that, like this is pre green screen, I'm like just looking at it,
you
like,
don't get moments like that throughout the rest of the movie though. It's like that's just the one where it's like, wow, that seems like they're really trying hard, and then it gets to be a bit more standard.
It's kind of like how when you start seeing all the gangsters together wearing their purples and their oranges and the green suits, and how flamboyant it is and how outlandish everything looks, and then you see so many of them that you stop paying attention. You're like, oh, it's a comic book, and it does a great job of really establishing that this is a funny page, like that this is an adaptation of something. This isn't Tim Burton's Batman. This isn't Richard Donner's Superman. This isn't even Roger Rabbit, which wasn't a comic book, that was a novel. Like, it really, really feels, you could tell that they put a lot of effort into articulating, oh, this isn't a movie, this is a comic book coming to life. And it's like you said, like the closest we've ever got to something post this is Sin City, except that one's actually noir. Like, there is no color, it's black and white, it's raining all the time.
Well, and it's like, I think with Sin City it's distinctive in that, like, for I guess even though that was my introduction to Frank Miller, like right when you just hear that language, it's like you get the sense of the author right away. This, I'm still not sure. What's the name of the guy that created this character? I
got no clue. Like I said, Dick Tracy is kind of like a forgotten character now. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it was the time of the Pulp Fiction novels and the dime bag like magazines, and this is from the 40s.
I got the name up. It's Chester Gould, but like the point I'm making though, it's just as far as the writing here, I don't get the sense of the personality of the time. Maybe it's just this plain. Whereas with Sin City, like you can tell that like just that world and those characters, they are so unique just based on the way that they're written, based on the way that you read them, and just the way that the language works there.
I have a feeling that these characters are just the way they look, and we both haven't read or seen the comics, but I have to imagine with how outlandish the prosthetics are on these villains that they look like they're straight off the page. It has to be, because why else would you hide these? Yeah, you wouldn't hide these actors under this much rubber if there wasn't a reason. Like, they must have really cared about getting it right, and I'm sure they did. It's just, I don't know, there's not much there. Like, for as much as I like Tess Trueheart and Dick Tracy's chemistry, it's always the same conversation. It's always the same moment. Like, the kid, he's really great, but it's always
life. I mean, life.
It's the same moments over and over again. Like, Madonna is probably one of the greatest things in this, and that says a lot, because she isn't a good actress.
She's
and yet
really
just
nothing in this. I mean,
but she fills the screen so well. She's like the only person that has more than one outfit. Dick Tracy always wears the same thing. Tess is always wearing the same
design,
thing.
Though, like.
But she always looks great. Like, she always stands out, whether she's doing a musical number in the lounge, or she's visiting him in his office or in his home, or even when you get to that really batshit insane ending where you find out she's the villain. Regardless, she always stands out, which is like, I paused it towards the end because I was having buffering issues. I watched this on YouTube. I literally rented this for $1, and when I got to that, I was like, really? There was no setup for that. That doesn't even fucking make sense. Yeah,
I
there was no breadcrumbs.
With you almost on every point there, because she's the weakest part for me, in that right when you just get to her trying to seduce Tracy, that it's where it felt a lot more standard to me. Like, okay, this is the plot point. I get it. There's going to be that moment where Tess sees him, I don't know, making out or something, and then they're gonna question the relationship. Like, that's where it felt more generic for me. When you get to that batshit insane ending, at that point, I sort of had embraced just the insanity of this movie. That right when you get to that, like I thought, holy shit, that kind of makes sense.
No,
I mean, if
like
you,
a little bit, like
a little bit. Like if you think, like, well, based on this being in the 40s and how they put things together, it's like, well, yeah, only a woman would think, huh? Maybe I should take him to a flower shop, knock him out, and I don't know, use these chemicals to, like, or this sedative to bring him in. It's like, well, who thinks of something that sophisticated?
No, I just
based on the way that the thing works by design, I don't know, but like it was just so crazy that I kind of enjoyed it. The final payoff, though, where that typical moment where it's that cliche, like, oh, I love you, and then they just die by having their like head fall back, like that was a bit much. But I mean, yeah, aside from that, I kind of enjoyed that payoff just because I like the presence of No Face in general. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was really good. Like it's so funny that this film is called Dick Tracy. It's not like his name is Dick, but he's a detective, and there really isn't a mystery going on. Like, the mystery is, who is this faceless person? And it's
just a cops and robbers movie, though, at the end of the day.
It has such a shitty payoff, because I accepted Madonna as the femme fatale. Her name is Breathless, okay? She is the stereotypical lounge singer with, like, hooker with a heart of gold type of character. And, I was like, oh, I really like her. I really like the songs. I really like this stuff. But then you get, like, these horrible montages that happen, like, 2 or 3 times in the film where, like, literally show don't tell. Like, let's show everything that's going on with these newspaper clippings just so we can pretend like this film is going somewhere.
Like, have you seen 1930s gangsters movies? Like, that was pretty much a throwback to that. Yeah, like, there's some really good ones where it's a montage where you show things are happening, whether it's the rise of a gangster in Angels with Dirty Faces, but like in this, no, it's literally just Big Boy being torn apart because they have a mic planted at his office, and that is where it becomes a bit more of a generic cops and robbers movie, where I was just kind of like, well, it doesn't really I'm not sure if it fits with a comic book movie. Like this movie really is all over the place, but then again, it doesn't bother me, though. Like, while I was watching it, I was just watching it. I was going with it. And that's just, I was trying to think of why, I think when I was done with the movie, why is it so divisive? Because it's not critically acclaimed. It's more 50-50. Even though, like, this has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. And now good. This definitely has more of a cult following, which by its nature is pretty obvious. Because as with any cult movie, usually there's just something so unique about it that you cannot ignore, and people love it for that reason. And really, you just have the look and the visual style, and just the fact that this exists as being the reason for it, when really it's a standard plot. But I do think that's enough. Like, as entertainment, I was going with it, and I really enjoyed when I was watching it. It's not exactly I would buy that for $1, but it's like, you know what? If you're rent this for $1, why not? Or stream it. It's absolutely
fun for
worth
$1
seeing.
rent.
Yeah,
it is worth seeing. Like
you will
I wish
remember
that
it.
I could have.
It is so fucking weird, and it's
as little as I like this, I would still love to see it on film.
Oh, yes.
I think seeing this in a theater would be awesome, especially with a crowd that is familiar with it. And now that I've already seen it, I'd just be sitting there without a notebook in my hand, just like, oh my God, look at how good Madonna looks. Look how good the city looks and the clothes.
That is a new Beverly movie for sure.
Yeah, but. This is barely a superhero movie. It isn't. This is literally a comic book movie. It's taken a comic book and put it on the screen, and it's like you said, it's a cop and robbers movie. There's nothing special here. Have you seen A.B. Heckerling's Johnny Dangerously?
No, I haven't.
No, she followed Fast Times at Ridgemont High with that. It stars Michael Keaton, and it's just a satire of the gangster film. Michael Keaton's a gangster. His brother's the DA.
Like from the 30s and 40s, or
yeah, from like one of those type of movies, but filmed in the 80s. And it's really fun, and it does a lot of stuff that this film does, but it's not satirical, but it's a parody. It's just making fun of the whole genre and how over the top it is. And I was watching this, and I was kind of thinking of that film because it came out like 2 years before this did, and that one's actually a fun film. Like it is a good ride. It's Michael Keaton. But this is a Warren Beatty film. This is like, it's hard to really articulate who he was at the time. This was the biggest movie star on the planet. One of the biggest actors, one of the biggest directors, producers. If you wanted something, he got it. Like, he was everything. Like, it's kind of like, imagine if Leonardo DiCaprio filmed movies. That would be the equivalency today.
Yeah.
Like, he was on top of the world, and this is what he picked. Like, he did Reds, I think he did something after that, and then he filmed
He
this.
really got his say here. He made the fucking movie that he wanted to make, and yeah, I mean that's insane because this thing is expensive, and it paid off financially because it made money.
You can tell it's expensive because it still holds up. And when a film that's 26 years old, if you watch it today and you're not looking at it like, oh man, this looks like it's from the 90s, you know it's special. Like this,
like it's how did they put? Like you talked about that shot. How did they put this together? Like, okay, yeah, even those mats, it's like, yes, it's a mat, but still,
yeah,
it blends so fucking well when it like zooms into an actual building, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it is insane. It's a gorgeous technical achievement for sure.
Like, they put a lot of love into this, and it shows. Just they didn't put a lot of love into the story. Like, it's probably, I'd say, like 25 minutes too long. It doesn't go anywhere that you haven't seen before. There are, like I said, there's a couple of lines of dialogue that I really loved. Like, anytime Al Pacino misquoted, like, a famous figure like Abraham Lincoln or Benjamin Franklin. Like,
I love that he is kind of a history buff, even though not really, but still,
like, he pretends to be.
It's an awesome angle of, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's like, look how much smarter I am than the rest of you hoods. I'm trying to run the city, and what are you doing? You're happy to knock someone off for 2 pence. Like, fuck you guys, look at me, I'm gonna do it. Like, if you're not wearing, if one of my girls isn't wearing mink, she should be wearing nothing at all. Like, he has such great lines, and it's like, this is Al Pacino. You know, like, he was one of the bigger actors at this era. This is right before he won his Oscar. Like, he was still kind of on top of things, and Warren Beatty must came to him like, hey, you wanna be a comic book villain? Well, and he must have been like,
and he really doesn't have to act all that different. I mean, like, you know, it's the same guy straight out of Heat when he's talking about the great ass, and he has his bulging eyeballs out, you know. I mean,
let me tell you.
I mean, what, they just slap on like a very thin mustache and they give him a hunchback? That's probably the most comic book thing out of this. But yeah, it's still the same Al Pacino, and he's having a blast with it, man. I had fun watching him.
It's like when he got approached by Adam Sandler to make what the fuck's the Jack and Jill? Is that the one that he's in?
Oh my god, yeah, I have not seen it.
Like when he got approached to do that, he was probably like, I can do that. I did Dick Tracy. Yeah, I'm not gonna buy this one for $1. I probably won't see it again. Like I said, if I was handed an opportunity, if it was playing like on film somewhere,
at the New Beverly, yeah, that'd be a good one to go to. I'm sure they have done kid matinees for that before, so you could go on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon just to see it.
That's the thing, though. Like, I wouldn't even really want to drive that far out. It'd be more like, like, really though,
it's
like
say 45 minutes tops from where you are. That's nothing.
Say I lived in an area where there was, okay, well, better yet, let's say the art theater had it, I would go, okay? But I'm not going to go drive to LA to go see this thing. I want to go to LA to go see Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, and I haven't seen that yet, okay? So if I can't be bothered to go see a film that I actually want to see, that I don't know if it's good or bad, I'm not going to go drive that way to see something that I know I don't like. Even if it is visually
you don't really
appetizing.
Live that far from LA, though.
It's enough.
I'm just saying, it's pretty close, okay? It's like, it's what, 20 minutes?
I don't like going to movies by myself. I'm going to find somebody like, hey, yeah, have you seen Dick Tracy? No? Okay, it's not that good, but let me tell you, it's going to look awesome on film. Trust me, let's go. $8, let's go.
Well, you know, like I said, I mean, it's really not until after I saw this that this seems tonally off, and I figured, yeah, that would be an issue for people, because I did think, wait, like, I know this opens with the Touchstone logo, but so did Nightmare Before Christmas, and this is one of the ones that it's always just been talked about as a Disney movie, so I kind of just put that together. But
I don't see this as a Disney movie. Like, it is very interesting that this is Disney's first attempt at the comic book adaptation, especially with where they stand now.
Well, there's Rocket Man. That was years before.
Well, that's not a comic book though. They I think that became a comic after.
Wasn't it?
I'm not sure. But this is like the real one. You know, like. This is the one where I think everyone knew, like, oh, they're trying new things, and then now they are the people behind the Marvel machine. So it's interesting from just a historical standpoint that they gave a big actor / movie star, filmmaker, this kind of money to make something this just outlandish. Like, this is basically art cinema. Like, this feels like something that would be from the new Hollywood era. And instead, this is a studio picture that was made with a video game and with the action figures, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had like tie-in promotional walkie-talkie watches and stuff like that. Like, this is a Disney movie, and yet it's so opposite of what they usually make. Like, Rocketeer is kind of similar in terms of being like, you got the action hero and he's saving the day, and he's got the dame and the little kid and stuff, and you want to be him because he has the gadgets. But there's nothing here that you're going to want to, like, outside of the way it looks, like, you wouldn't want to be Dick Tracy for Halloween.
I think if I saw this as a kid, I probably would have loved it, because just that combination of grit and, and comics, like, that's some that probably would have stood out to me. And aside from the visuals, really, to me, what makes this enjoyable to me is it's a cops and robbers movie. I mean, that boiler room scene, stuff like that, it's like, it's some pretty intense, really cool stuff that, after a while, I do question whether this fits and it belongs there, but it worked for me. It's not something I would buy, and I don't think I'm gonna watch it right away. But like, yeah, if I would definitely see this again if it was on TV or something, which of course doesn't really exist anymore. But like, yeah, if I spotted it, I would definitely just watch whatever parts were on.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet, with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. Trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Debt to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.